If you intend on winning a war, it's kind of important that you have soldiers who are actually willing to fight for you. Apparently, nobody gave Vladimir Putin that memo. Russia's president believes he can obscure the brutality of what goes on in Ukraine with offers of massive pay packets. However, even those monetary promises no longer seem enough to convince Russia's soldiers to keep fighting. They want to stop. And Putin doesn't seem able to convince them that dying horribly to complete his special military operation is a good idea. Mass surrender has erupted in the Russian army as Putin's troops refuse to fight. Putin is losing control of his own men, which gives Ukraine a critical advantage as the war heads into 2026. Back on December 31st, United 24 Media reported on data published by Ukraine's coordination headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war. That data, which flew a little under the radar as 2025 ended, showed a remarkable number of Russian soldiers have been captured since the invasion began. Even more interestingly, 2025 has brought the highest number of surrenders to date. How many Russian soldiers have been captured by Ukraine? More than 10,000 in a little under 4 years, a number so massive it begs the question of why this is happening. We'll cover some answers, but perhaps the biggest is that Ukraine has set up a project designed to enable Russian soldiers to submit themselves for capture, no matter where they are on the front lines. That program is called I Want to Live, and it's a prime example of the creativity Ukraine has showcased since Putin started his expansionist war. I Want to Live makes a very attractive offer to a Russian soldier who wants out. A soldier can visit the project's website, which offers multiple lines of communication, a chatbot directly on the site, a link to a Telegram channel, and a Contact Us page to message potential Ukrainian captors. Therein lies the genius. Ukraine isn't only offering peaceful surrender, it's making it as easy as possible for Putin's soldiers to throw in the towel. All it takes is a quick message. I Want to Live promises surrendering soldiers full compliance with the Geneva Conventions, detention in decent conditions, 3 meals daily, medical care, and the ability to contact their families. This treatment alone is better than what many receive in their own military. Sensationalistic, though not necessarily untrue, reports in December claim some Russian troops are so hungry they've plotted to eat their comrades, highlighting the dire food situation I Want to Live exploits. The program also offers a voluntary route back to Russia via prisoner exchanges, or, if the soldier prefers, an opportunity to seek shelter in Ukraine or another European country after the war. In other words, some Russians are not only surrendering, but are surrendering so hard they escape Putin's clutches altogether. It was I Want to Live that publicized the data United 24 Media shared, highlighting the growing surrender trend. The number of Russians surrendering is increasing year after year. In 2025 alone, more Russian servicemen were captured than in 2022 and 2023 combined, the statement reads. On average, 60 to 90 Russian armed forces servicemen surrender weekly, reaching 350 per week in August 2024. Since June 2023, Russian soldiers have consistently been captured more often than Ukrainian servicemen in Russian captivity. This is interesting data, and some of the numbers reveal that previous rumors about the state of Russia's military actually are true. We'll start with demographic data. According to United 24 Media, 83% of those captured are rank-and-file soldiers, typically infantry sent to charge headfirst at Ukrainian drones. Only 13% were non-commissioned officers. A minuscule 3% were officers. This shows Russia rarely places officers in positions to be captured, preferring to let the cannon fodder, a unsympathetic but not inaccurate term, put themselves in Ukraine's firing lines. It gets more interesting. A surprising 7% of the 10,000 captured, around 700, have been identified as foreign mercenaries contracted from 40 different countries. Between 2 and 3 new foreign fighters are being discovered weekly. Contract soldiers in general make up a large portion. 76% of those captured are contract soldiers, many from Russia's prisons or private military companies. Mobilized individuals account for 19%. Conscripts, whom Putin claimed would not be sent into battle, make up 5%. It looks like Putin was lying. If you have legs and can hold a gun, you're good enough to die in Ukraine. In interviews, Ukraine has discovered that Russia engages in deceitful and sometimes coercive campaigns to recruit soldiers. Many have criminal backgrounds or histories that make them vulnerable to the lucrative contracts the Kremlin waves in their faces. Almost a quarter, 25% of the 10,000 captured, report they were coerced or misled into joining. For a leader who demands unquestioning loyalty, Putin certainly gives them many reasons to abandon his cause. Putin also favors the criminally inclined. 40% of those captured have criminal records: theft, assault, drug offenses, homicide. 38% were unemployed before joining. 30% hadn't completed high school. Only 7% held higher education degrees. We're getting a picture of the Russian recruitment strategy. Using coercion and lies, Putin recruits among the most vulnerable in Russian society: the poorly educated, who may sign up for rubles they can't earn elsewhere, and criminals who choose between jail or Ukraine, implying much about Russian correctional facilities. Then there are the sick. Ukrainian officials say hundreds of those captured also suffer from chronic health conditions, including HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, diabetes, and mental illnesses, United 24 Media reports. These statistics confirm past rumors. For instance, The Telegraph reported in September 2025 that Russia was using 6 soldiers to assault Pokrovsk. Those soldiers often have the diseases mentioned and are forced to wear armbands identifying them as infected cannon fodder. As for the undereducated, their inclusion in high numbers aligns with what the BBC called Russia's transformation of war into a social ladder. In January 2025, the outlet noted financial incentives have been Russia's main recruitment tool, with wages up to 600% higher than the average Russian income. Putin positions military service as a chance to join the country's elite. For the undereducated and criminals, that's a tempting proposition when the alternative is poverty, prison, or a slow death from disease. It's also likely a lie, as demonstrated by the 1.22 million Russian soldiers who have become casualties, including the 10,000 captured. You can't become elite with a bullet in your head or blown up by a drone. We also touched on Russia's use of foreign fighters. Putin seems happy to leave them, along with injured soldiers, out to dry. United 24 Media reports that Russia tends to prioritize ethnic Russians who have been in captivity for a short period and have no serious injuries in prisoner exchanges. The wounded aren't worth the effort, as they can't be sent back to the front lines. Ukrainian officials report that at least 237 POWs returned to Russia have ended up dying or missing in Ukraine after being redeployed. Another 4 have been captured a second time. As for foreign fighters, they have little chance of returning to Russia. As Australia's ABC News reported in December, Russia has been working hard to recruit them via social media, offering massive pay and even Russian citizenship. By mid-2025, a third of Russian government contract announcements were aimed at foreigners, with posts hitting 4,500 per month, up from around 100 a year and a half before. This tells us a lot about Putin's manpower situation. His own citizens are wising up, or there aren't enough ethnic Russians left from the categories recruiters target. Foreign fighters are in for a rude awakening. Russia's refusal to take them back in exchanges is a blessing compared to other fates. According to a January 12 report in The Telegraph, Russia has now taken to press-ganging African people into the military and sending them on kamikaze missions. Ukraine's ambassador in South Africa, Oleksandr Sherba, stated, "There might be all kinds of charm offensives on the African continent, but once an African person comes to this war, they just become meat for the meat grinder," adding that Russia looks at Africa through imperialistic eyes. This imperialistic attitude exists inside the Russian military. A video published on January 11th shows a group of African soldiers singing in a snow-covered forest. The Russian soldier filming comments, "Look how many disposables there are," before claiming they will be singing differently once deployed. That's a callousness that can't be excused by the fog of war. The captured Russian soldiers reveal patterns of coercion, deception, and outright loathing of the very people Putin sends to fight his war. That is no way to boost morale. But the saddest thing is Putin isn't looking for high morale. He wants unquestioning loyalty in return for money, extending to a willingness to die when commanded.
Over 10,000 and counting either aren't willing or have been captured while trying. Many more are likely to follow if I Want to Live's claim that Ukraine captured more Russian soldiers in 2025 than in 2022 and 2023 combined is anything to go by. That's another pattern. More of Russia's soldiers are ending up in Ukraine's custody, suggesting more than ever are willing to raise the white flag. So, what does this mean for Ukraine? First, every surrendering soldier is a loss of someone Russia is paying handsomely and relying on for assaults. Interfax reports that the largest numbers of Russian prisoners have been captured in the Pokrovsk and Bakhmut districts of Donetsk region, the Kursk region, and the Polohi district of Zaporizhia, all regions where Russia has sustained massive losses. Surrendering soldiers weaken those assaults further. Another critical point: Ukraine is now capturing more Russian soldiers than Russia is capturing Ukrainian troops. This shouldn't be happening. Typically, the offensive force makes most captures by taking territory and encircling troops. Russia's maneuvers are so poor its soldiers consistently fail to isolate Ukrainian defenders, often getting caught in traps or establishing weak footholds that are encircled themselves. Ukraine also gains leverage from this volume of surrenders, which is why I Want to Live exists. The Irregular Warfare Initiative calls the campaign a form of psychological warfare for the modern era. By replacing traditional PSYOP methods with mobile technology and social media, Ukraine can now reach enemy soldiers through the smartphones in their hands, aiming to stoke fear, spread confusion, and encourage surrender. Capturing many Russian soldiers also means Ukraine can bring back large numbers of its own troops in prisoner exchanges. For instance, January 2024, 230 Ukrainian soldiers returned for 248 Russian POWs. Then there's intelligence. Every captured soldier knows something. Ukraine can learn about Russian training methods, supply shortages, training class sizes, giving insight into future assaults, and even on rarer occasions when an officer is captured, details of planned operations. The intelligence alone justifies programs like I Want to Live. The damage the data does to the impression of Russia as a competent fighting force is a nice bonus. Putin can't afford for so many of his soldiers to surrender. Russia already has severe manpower problems. Ukraine is now killing more Russian soldiers than the country is replacing through recruitment. Something big has broken in Russia, and it's helping to loosen Putin's grip on his own military.